Hey guys, welcome to the latest episode of the Lion and the Liverpool podcast. There's so much we need to get through. We've got Champions League, we've got Chelsea versus Manchester United, we've got the games at the weekend, a lot of surprising results in midweek and last season in the last weekend also. So let's start off with the biggest game from last week, Chelsea versus Manchester United. Uh, it wasn't the greatest of games, uh, but a lot of people expected that, with United being under interim management and Chelsea still trying to find a way in certain games. It was a 1-1 draw. We had spoken about, Rude taking over the reins for a few games before Amorim comes in for Manchester United and how they looked good against Leicester, but they did not look good against Chelsea. I think Chelsea also were quite okay with getting a draw. I know they're still a work in progress. So, what are your thoughts on the match, Rohit?
So I think we talked about it last week, right? This game would be like a good experiment to see whether a manager really matters. And from the results of this, it does not, right? Manchester United were playing pretty bad football under Ten Haag. And, he got fired, and then you have him under Rude. And you expect Chelsea, who's been under Maresca, who follows a certain system, who's got this positional style of play, who's been coaching the team for the last 3, 4 months, to be better than Man United. And we were not, right? Yeah, so clearly, one thing is very simple is that Man United players weren't playing for Ten Hag, right? They weren't turning up for him. And the second thing is, does it really matter at the end of the day? The quality of the players probably is paramount, right? If you have similar quality of players and they're invested in the game and they're putting in their 100%, things will be close, right? The game was weird. I think Man United actually got more XG than Chelsea in the game, of course, and they also got the lead, right? Roberto Sanchez gave away a penalty, although you can't really blame him, right? He was one-on-one with Rasmus Højlund. A bit of a error in judgment from Wesley Fofana, who's been having, iffy kind of season so far, having come back from a long-term injury. And of course, the penalty was put away by Bruno Fernandez, and then Chelsea equalized through a very stunning goal from Moises Caicedo. So it's interesting what's happening to our two 100 million plus midfielders, right? On one hand, you have Moises Caicedo, who's doing really well, who's an integral part of the first 11 of Chelsea, right? He's scoring goals, he's assisting. And on the other side, you have Enzo Fernandez, right? He has not really shown as much. He's kind of been relegated to the second 11 team. Physically, he's getting outrun, he's getting out tackled in the Premier League. So it's interesting what's going on there. Go
Yeah,
ahead, you had to
so
say
I just
something.
wanted to maybe bring this up. I think you'd have a better idea of what's going on. So I remember last season it was Enzo and Caicedo as part of the
Hmm.
midfield. But this
Hmm.
season, I believe Maresca has gone or is pushing Romeo Lavia alongside Caicedo.
Yeah.
Is that
Yep.
actually helping Caicedo, or is it just that Caicedo's found his feet finally at Chelsea?
So definitely Caicedo's found his feet, but it is also helping Caicedo because Enzo Maresca came out and addressed this, right? He said that he needs a little bit more physicality next to Caicedo. So basically, Lavia offers that little bit more physicality than Enzo Fernandez. Not substantially more, it's a very small difference. But it's interesting because what happened last season was Chelsea actually started performing better when we had Conor Gallagher next to Caicedo because Enzo got a surgery at the end of the year, a hernia operation, and when Enzo was put out of the squad, Chelsea started performing better. Basically, if you put Enzo in the midfield, you have to put somebody who's physically imposing and who's defensive, somebody like a Onana, right, of Aston Villa. He doesn't really work with somebody like Caicedo, who is good physically, but somebody who still needs a physical presence. Caicedo wins a lot of duels, he wins a lot of interceptions, but he can't do it alone, right? If the other person is just being bypassed very easily, he's not really being able to make the tackle or keep up with the speed of the game, Caicedo cannot shine. So you hit the nail on the head. Lavia is playing because he offers that little bit more physicality. And the other thing I wanted to talk about in this game is kind of interesting. This is a theory that I have, right? And this will also tie into the midweek match that we had against Noah. So Chelsea has been playing this completely different 11, the Premier League and the midweek whatever EFL Cup or the Conference League and so on and so forth. In theory, your first 11 should be fresh, and not tired and not have injuries. In terms of injuries, that's helped us out. But I think right now what's happening is we are lacking a little bit of sharpness because all these players are only playing once a week, and the second 11 is basically playing a far inferior opposition. So, for example, we played Noah in this midweek, right? And we won 8-0. It makes no sense because Noah are fourth in the Armenian league, right? It's probably worse than the League Three in England or something like that, right? So it doesn't help, playing against inferior opposition. Our second 11 is not getting sharp, and our first 11 is not getting as much time to gel with each other because in the Man United team I saw they had like 6 or 7 players who played in the midweek who also played in the game in the Premier League. At in this juncture of the season, when you don't really have fatigue as a big factor, I think it's hurting Chelsea. That Chelsea's first 11 is only playing one match a week and it's not getting enough time to gel. I don't know. That's just the theory I have. What do you think about that?
I think you've got something there because a lot of the clubs actually do keep playing the same team more or less throughout these
Mhm.
extra games in Europe and maybe the bigger games in the cup competitions. This was something that we were a little critical about, or at least I was a little critical about with Jurgen Klopp because he would stick to his 11. And you see people like
Mhm.
Salah, like Van Dijk, they would constantly keep on playing. But he had
Mhm.
spoken about this and he said that, this keeps players sharp. I want to keep my players sharp. Uh, I don't know. Maybe you've got something that, maybe Chelsea, maybe Maresco does need to play at least a few of
Yeah.
his players in other competitions.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a balance, right? You
Yeah.
can rest people, but if you only play these guys once a week against top quality opposition, they're just not going to get sharp enough. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But I think Chelsea should have done better against Noah. I mean, you were playing against one person, Noah. So, like, you should have scored 15, 16 goals, maybe 30, 35 or something. I
I
mean,
felt bad for them. I felt bad for them. They're clearly not, at least 3 or 4 levels,
hmm.
under Chelsea, right? It's just humiliating for them. But I think they took it in the right way. They saw, coming to Stamford Bridge and playing against like a two-time European champion as a badge of honor. So it's okay, I guess.
Yeah, so I think the revamp of the European competitions will get us a lot of these mismatches. But I think it's also, as you said, a good experience for them because I had never heard of the club.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of times we used to talk about, these random clubs coming in, FC Sheriff and all that. But it's good fun
Yeah.
in the Conference League, such things coming up. Uh, we should be talking also about Liverpool. I think we should. The
Yes.
top of the.
I'm excited about talking about Liverpool,
Oh yeah,
man. Yeah.
wow, so cool. So top of the
Yeah.
Premier League, top of the Champions League. Uh,
Yeah.
that entire discussion of Liverpool not having played any tough opposition is done and dusted, I think, for now. We faced Arsenal, we beaten Chelsea, we beaten RB, I think we beat Leipzig, we beaten Bologna, we beaten AC Milan, we have beaten last year's Bundesliga champions, Bayer Leverkusen, and quite comfortably. Uh, I really wanted to bring out this one really great thing that Arne Slot did. So when the lineup was made for Leverkusen, we did not start Darwin Nunes. Jota is injured, and it seemed, for all intents and purposes, that Cody Gakpo would play as the striker. But your Arne Slot got Luis Diaz to play as the striker, and he was asked about this, and he gave a very interesting reply. He said that Jonathan Tah likes to play the Bayer Leverkusen defender. He likes to play against these number nines and physical forwards. That's why I put Luis Diaz there because he's a different player. And lo and behold, a hat trick for Luis Diaz. Uh, I think we blew Leverkusen away in that second half. We were in complete control. They had the chances, obviously, but I mean, I don't know how much more you can, credit Arne Slot for what he's done with this team. No new faces to use. Uh, none of his players have come in. He's just worked on what Jurgen Klopp had set up, and we look so much better as a unit working together now. There's none of that, the last few games of Jurgen Klopp's tenure, random attacks that happened. There was no plan. I'm just surprised. I knew he was a good coach, but I did not think he would be doing this well.
Yeah, I think he surprised a lot of us, right? I saw this match. That's why I'm excited to talk about this and ask your opinion on this. I saw the match against Leverkusen live, and there were so many kind of underlying stories, right? Xabi Alonso coming back to Liverpool because, you guys were quoting him to become the coach. What would he do? He's, he's leading this Bayern Leverkusen side who won the Bundesliga last season, and you guys
Undefeated.
outplayed them,
They
right?
were undefeated
Yeah,
in the squad.
exactly. And 4-0 win, a drubbing basically. And how good is Ryan Gravenberch, right? Like that shows how good of a coach Arne Slot is, right? I saw him, and it didn't feel for a second like he's not a natural number six, right? He's comfortable on the ball. He distributes it well. He can carry the ball. He can dribble past people. Excellent, excellent player. And he wins so many duels. The other guy is Curtis Jones, right? He's back and he's been playing so well. He got a brilliant assist for the
Perfect.
through ball that he played to Luis Diaz, right? Amazing, amazing. Bodes well for England as well, right? He's back in the England squad in England reckoning. So I think he's improving players all around. And then, like you said, he picked the right center forward instead of going for Cody Gakpo. He played Gakpo in the left wing where he is the best, and he played Luis Diaz. So you guys have really struck gold with this coach. And while I was watching the game, I was trying to think of any possible weaknesses that you guys are showing, and I really don't see any, right? So it bodes well. I think the fact that you guys have such a good coach, and he has turned a squad that was supposed to have a big hole in the number six to a squad that doesn't seem to have any weaknesses at all. So, I'm excited for you guys. I think I'm excited because it goes against conventional wisdom, right? People
Yeah.
say, hey, you need this specific guy. The number six is a position you cannot coach. It's something that has to come inherently. You have to learn how to play it from the get-go, but clearly not. That's what's super exciting to me.
Yeah. So
And
the
yeah,
sorry, yeah. Continue. Yeah.
go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah,
No,
no.
that.
So the thing that I really like, as you said, is that Arne Slot is a proper coach. Now, by coach, it doesn't just mean that he sets up a plan. He's actually improving the players. What we've seen right now is Simicas being a preferred left back. We're trying to maybe slowly phase Andy Robertson away. Now, Robertson,
Yeah,
as I spoke, I think last time also, he's a great servant of the club. He has a great engine. He's not the most technically gifted player. I know he can't play the left centre back role at all, but Simicas has been doing a pretty decent job, and he might be a number one going forward. Same thing goes with Cody Gakpo. Gakpo last season, he felt like he was being misplayed, like randomly given places. He was playing as a central attacking midfielder, sometimes in central midfield. Arne Slot now sees him as a left winger, and he plays him as a left winger. It's interesting because Luis Diaz was playing as a center forward, but I like this. I like that, he's actually improving the players that we have. We don't maybe have to go out and buy a 70, 80 million pound player. Maybe we can get a 20 million pound player and Slot can make him better, which works for
yeah,
FSG also. So
yeah.
it's all
Perfect.
good. Yeah, yeah. That's what you
And
need.
Trent Alexander-Arnold, right? He's improved defensively, right? You
Yeah.
have to appreciate that as well. I mean, again, that bodes really well for England.
Yeah. So I think Arnold, Trent Alexander-Arnold not defending well it's not a myth because he does have lapses, but the media makes a huge deal out of it. Kyle Walker's been absolutely terrible, but I don't see that kind of coverage done for him. But yeah, Arne Slot has improved almost every single aspect of our team, the attack, the midfield, and the defense. So I'm happy. I mean, like, we don't know if he's gonna match Jurgen Klopp's legacy because Jurgen Klopp was obviously too good. Because he changed the club. The club was going nowhere. But if Slot continues setting up the team like this, we could actually win a trophy this season, or maybe two, which was like maybe beyond our thoughts when he was signed by the club. We have to talk about the other clubs also and what's going on at Manchester City, at Arsenal, and at Aston Villa. I think all three lost in the weekend, and then they all lost in
Yes.
the Champions League as well. So we'll start
Yeah.
with City first because I really don't understand this. So they've lost in the League Cup, which was fine because we spoke about them having a different team, a different League 11 fine. They lost to I think it was Bournemouth, right? Yeah,
Bournemouth, yep.
yeah, Bournemouth. And Bournemouth deserved that because they could have scored a lot more
Yep.
goals. And then they
Mhm.
lost to Sporting. Ruben Amorim gets one over Pep Guardiola before he comes to Manchester United. Gyökeres scored a hat trick. I saw the highlights of that game, and City did have the chances. But there's fundamentally something wrong with City right now. I mean, why is this happening?
Yeah. I think multiple things, right? Rodri is definitely a factor, and I think Pep is probably about to, be done with his stint at City,
Mm,
either this year or next year, right? You can totally see that he's kind of doesn't have that same passion and energy anymore, and that trickles down in the team. I think things can still change, but clearly the results are there for everybody to see, right? So I think, Man City probably need to go out in the January window and get a good replacement, a good solid number six, because otherwise they are very, very fragile on the counter, right? Somebody if you don't have a good defensive number six and everybody's up ahead attacking, it's a very simple way to beat them. And bodes well for the Premier League, stop their dominance after so many years, tired of City winning again and again. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, so I think City will still make a run because that's what they do in November,
For sure.
December, Jan. That's when they're really invincible. Speaking of invincible, we got to talk about Arsenal. Uh, yeah, all they talk about
Oh, man.
great play, great ability. They've got some great, fantastic attackers, and then Mikel Arteta's not just regressed. He's not become Jose Mourinho because Jose Mourinho's teams used to attack and then go into the shell. He's become Tony Pulis. It's Stoke City all over again. The only time Arsenal look threatening is during those corners and free kicks. They lost to Newcastle
Yeah.
at the weekend. They lost to Inter Milan, although they had chances against Inter Milan. But again, there's something fundamentally wrong with Arsenal. And it can't just be that Martin Odegaard's been injured and he's come back. Uh,
Hmm.
there's this entire policy of playing four centre backs, three defensive midfielders, and then you hope that Saka does something. You got Kai Havertz as a forward who actually does a lot of defensive work. He's not maybe the sharpest in the final third. So you basically are playing with just two attackers, Martinelli and Saka. That's it.
Yeah. So, I think there's some truth to the Odegaard thing, right? Because if you look at their squad, especially their midfield, there isn't that creative spark, right? If you're playing Partey and Rice, and now Mikel Merino there, right? There isn't that creative spark. You need that creative spark. And Saka is basically their only, X factor player. Martinelli blows hot and cold, and Havertz, we all know as Chelsea fans, when he's good, he can be good, but then he can be very frustrating, right? He works hard, there's no right, but he again doesn't always have that X factor. He needs everybody else to kind of play around him and facilitate his kind of play, right? Which doesn't always happen. And they lost to Newcastle. I loved Newcastle's goal, by the way. Anthony
Yeah.
Gordon, delicious cross in and a beautiful header. One of those old school goals that you see from Isak. And then again, they lost against Inter Milan in the midweek. But there's a silver lining for them, which is that they face Chelsea on Sunday. And Chelsea are known to turn around fortunes of teams who are in a rut. We've been doing that for the last 3-4 years. Teams have been losing constantly. They come to Chelsea, beat Chelsea, and get their confidence back. Maybe that's gonna happen. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, but I think Maresca will have a good plan for Arsenal, and because it's a derby, there's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be a lot of yellow cards and red cards. I hope. I want to see something like that, like fisticuff in the midfield or some shit like
Uh,
that. So you'll see. But we need to talk about also Aston Villa. They started the season brightly. A
yes.
lot of people were saying great things about him. They beat Bayern Munich in the Champions League, and then the last week has been maybe a sort of reality check. I don't know. They drew against Bournemouth first. That's a couple of weeks back. They lost to this thing, Crystal Palace at home. They lost to Tottenham, and now they've lost in the Champions League to Club Brugge. Again, that is not a result that many would have expected. Are the wheels coming off Aston Villa? Has Unai Emery been found out?
Yeah,
Where's
very interesting, right?
the other
The
question is
top.
where's
Yeah,
John Duran? We spoke so much about him. What's happened to him? Where are the goals for John
yeah,
Duran?
yeah. Yeah, John Duran goals have dried up, and I think specifically Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham really gave them a drubbing, right?
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it ended up as 4-1. So I think that goes to show that defensively there are frailties with Aston Villa, right? And understandably so, their defense isn't the best that they have. And the John Duran thing is interesting, right? Because he still doesn't start, right? There's
Yeah.
only so much like a super sub who can do, and then there's always that underlying kind of thing with him where he's not happy at the fact that he scored so many goals at the beginning, but he still doesn't get a start. And then, with these mercurial players, right? If they're not happy, their performance goes down, right? They're not into it. They don't put 100% of the effort. I think one of the goals in one of the games, I think, was a free kick goal, and John Duran was a part of the wall. And I distinctly remember he didn't jump at all, and he looked back and he said, "What can I do?" That kind of a thing. I think that was the last goal. Probably Madison scored that goal against Tottenham. So there are some issues that he needs to resolve there. right? I mean, it's good for Chelsea. Aston Villa is being found out a little bit, and then I think Liverpool should beat Aston Villa pretty easily this weekend. We'll see. Things are never go according to plan, but based on form, I think Liverpool should beat Aston Villa. That gives Chelsea some wiggle room, maybe to get away with a draw against Arsenal, and let's see what happens there.
Yeah. So Liverpool Villa is obviously the big one of the other big games, and I think it will be interesting to see how we do because given that uh, we've come back, uh, yeah. So we played a really tough team, and then Villa also played and lost. So we need to see how we do. Obviously, what I've seen from Slot is that maybe the first half we won't blow the team away, but he makes changes in the second half. We've seen that in a lot of games, and that really works out for us. So it's going to be an interesting tactical battle, I feel. I also wanted to talk about the new revamped Champions League format. I remember we had spoken about this at the start of the campaign, and we were like, what have they done? Why have they changed it? You knew who you had to beat to qualify. But it has thrown up some really interesting results. Right now, Liverpool are top unbeaten. They're the only club with a 100% winning record. But the team that's second is Sporting, Ruben Amorim's. Third is Monaco. Fourth is Brest. You would not expect these three teams to qualify directly from their groups always, especially not
Mhm.
Brest. You've got Dortmund, obviously, Barcelona, Inter, and Aston Villa. So these eight teams get a bye, so they don't have to start the knockout rounds. And you look further down, you've got clubs like Celtic, who might make it to the knockout stage, Dinamo Zagreb, Feyenoord, Club Brugge, and you go further down, and these are the teams that could miss out on the knockout rounds altogether. PSG, Stuttgart, Girona, who did very well in the La Liga last season, RB Leipzig. So I know it's only halfway and there could be a lot of changes, but clubs like Brest, like they are more or less sure to go to the knockout stages as well, which would be great for them because they've never actually played, I think, European football. So, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, right? I think we got it a little wrong. I think it's throwing up some interesting matches, right? Because, for example, the Leverkusen Liverpool game was pretty good, although it ended up being one-sided. But yeah, it was an interesting match. I even liked AC Milan beating Real Madrid, right?
Oh,
Real
yeah.
Madrid's miseries get compounded, and then every match day there's one or two interesting games at the end of the day. So I think it might not be too bad. Let's see.
Ah, yeah. Speaking about Madrid, we go to face them, I think, after the international break, but all's not good there also. The issues with Kylian Mbappe continue, losing to Milan. That was like, I think that was a shocker. I don't think a lot of us expected that. Uh, yeah, I mean, maybe Carlo Ancelotti is being found out. Who knows? Or maybe they've got too many big egos now playing around. It's strange as to why
Yeah.
it's happening.
Well, I think that's the thing, right? You can't have like a Kylian Mbappe and a Vinicius Junior in the team at the same time. None of these two guys are good at tracking back and defending, right? None of the big teams now are going to allow that, right? I think that's the problem. It's he has to figure out how to get both of these two players in the team together. Maybe drop Kylian Mbappe, right? Use him off the bench. I don't know. I think it makes sense in a certain way. Let's see what happens. Whether Real Madrid can figure a way around it. But I think Barcelona look good for the La
Oh,
Liga,
yeah.
and Real Madrid at least now look nowhere close to challenging for the Champions League.
That'd be amazing. Kylian Mbappe throws up his hand. He's like, I'm not going to come off the bench. And he starts a
Yeah,
war at Madrid. He can't hold Madrid to ransom like he did with PSG, with all
yeah,
the shenanigans they used to do there. So
mhm.
maybe Real Madrid have got a Galactico that's even too big for them. Who knows?
Yeah,
You never would have
possible.
thought.
Yeah.
And then to round it up, we just want to talk about another match. It's Brighton versus Manchester City. Brighton still look very good. They gave us a really tough outing in both the matches we played against them. We needed a couple of moments of magic to beat them in the Premier League. 2 minutes of madness, I think, with Salah scoring that wonderful, wonderful goal. And City seem to be there for the taking. Brighton are at home, and City have just lost a game in the Champions League. So maybe another chance for Liverpool to extend the lead at the top of the table.
I think so, especially if Brighton, again, the way they conceded the goals against Liverpool, right? Most of them were on the counter. right? They are not good at defending. They don't have quick defenders. Their attacking play is really good. It's really bright. But Man City, they always like to retain possession. So if Brighton can sit back a little bit and then hit them on the counter, I see Brighton pulling off some sort of a result, especially given the fact that Man City are going through a rough patch right now. I think it bodes well for you guys again.
Yeah. So again, a great round of fixtures coming up. We'll be back talking about what happened in the Premier League, and then maybe have a different episode because there's another international break coming up. I I'm at a loss for words as to how many international breaks we've already had this season. I think it's three. Three. Yeah. So crazy. But apart from that, keep following us. Do like, share, and subscribe to our content. We appreciate all that, all the support that you've given us. And till the next
Yep.
episode, take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.